Anthony with the pump fake and one dribble inside to the long two, and he makes it. That's been his game his whole career. But look at him smiling. We go, my bad. The long two.
Welcome to another episode of The Long Two. I am Pete Rogers. He is Natty Wallach. And we are a Carmelo Stanthony podcast, but occasionally talk fantasy basketball. Natty, how you doing today?
I'm all right, Pete. How you doing?
I was doing better last week, I'll say, because, you know, there was much more hope for an NBA season or end of a season. And then this week, Kyrie's flat earthness has gotten all over the NBA and their plans to play in Orlando.
Yeah, we were a little skeptical last week, just because who knows what's going on and what's going to even happen tomorrow. And it seems like Kyrie is serving a good function, I think, in terms of, you know, bringing up sort of practical concerns and maybe voicing a population of the NBA that really just does not want to do this. But it's also been interesting to see other players, you know, disagree. Kyrie won't be playing either way. And some of these players, you know, people have always been willing to risk their lives for money. Some of these players want to play for the cash. Some of these players want to play because they think it'll bring relief to the country. And some of them play because they think it will give them a platform in which they can address what's going on right now. So I feel like I kind of get where everyone's coming from, but I still think that it's so dangerous that it's probably just better not to do it at all.
Yeah, I agree with what you were saying. And I should have rephrased what I was saying at the top of the show. Like, the fact that it is still, there are so many questions about COVID and the world today, and what really is going to happen when you put, you know, whatever, 22 teams of NBA players and staff and families all in this Disney World bubble. Like, what is going to happen? Did we challenge this? Did we look at this analytically or critically before going into it? The thing that, like, is so unsurprising that it's Kyrie, like, heading this. And I feel like if it was anyone else, somehow, maybe just me personally, would take this argument more seriously. It's just, I guess I'd have a hard time believing, like, why is it all of us, like, why were the stars of the NBA not at this table, at this conversation? Was this just like LeBron and the NBA owners being like, we need an NBA season? And, you know, even like the other stars of the NBA weren't a part of this discussion to make this Orlando bubble? Was there not, maybe details of the Orlando bubble weren't necessarily shared to the players, and that's on the league, and that's obviously not cool. That's not something you want. But it's like, you can't, like you said, Kyrie's not playing. So Kyrie's, like, I guess I don't know. It lends itself to a lot of Kyrie conspiracy theories about what is his true intent here. And I'm sure it's all good. And I'm just being a dick about spreading these possible other ulterior motives that Kyrie has. But you can't help but wonder if Kyrie's, you know, trying to rid or keep LeBron from winning yet another championship without him.
I think this is what Kyrie gets for the flat earth shit. And, you know, some of the other stuff. It is right to be skeptical of someone who dismisses agreed upon scientific facts and, you know, just sort of like common sense interpretations of the physical world, especially if they're observable and you can, you know, like, do experiments to prove them. But whatever. This is what Kyrie gets.
I mean,
if he had never said any of that stuff, then people would obviously.
Natty? Have you seen the edge of the earth?
Exactly. And, like, you know, and if he was just trolling when he did that, then this is still what you get. You know, like, he tarnished himself and his reasoning by talking about flat earth theory. And so now people will remember that, and they'll wonder, you know, why do you believe in one thing and not the other? He's not being consistent. But nobody is. And, you know, maybe he just said a stupid thing and it snowballed and whatever. The point is that what he brought up are valid points.
Yes.
And they should be addressed.
Yep.
And if that's what the union is supposed to do, like when you sit down and discuss this stuff, like these are what people are supposed to talk about. So, one wonders if this had leaked out, whether, like anyone would really have, or if we didn't know which player had brought these things up, like would people have minded? Some people might have been like, oh yeah, that's a good point. The NBA, even if they advance, they're not going to make players play. If you don't feel
No.
safe and you don't want to go, you don't have to. That's fine, and you'll still get paid, I believe. Um, but it's, I think more than the Kyrie and the practical stuff, it's interesting to see what some players think they can do with this opportunity, and not just to get paid, even though everybody wants to get paid and everybody wants to be working. But more like, why do we play basketball, and why do people like watching basketball, and what does basketball mean to the larger society? And I am sympathetic to the players who are like, no, this is our chance to, propel the conversation and keep interest going and use the NBA to advance BLM and to advance some of the other marches and protests and ideas that are going around, like defund
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
But
No, and I think you're right. Like I mean, we saw obviously the NBA's already had a history of this. I know there was the I Can't Breathe shirts back in when were those? Do you remember? It was when
Eric Garner was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, which is also just like absurd that like literally the exact same phrase has just. Anyways,
I
we
mean,
don't need
Charleston was 5 years ago.
to.
Charlottesville was.
Good God, we don't need to go into all of that. But the NBA certainly has precedent. The players have a precedent of doing this, and I mean, we saw it with Kobe, where you had the teams doing opening tip-off possession. They let the clock run out as a moment and a tribute.
Mhm.
And so I agree with the idea that you're going to be arguably the only sport on TV that everyone's watching. Let's bring it back as safely as possible, and then players using that platform as a way to really continue this movement and this discussion.
Yeah, I mean, some of the big guys, like I I don't want to project, but I would wonder if some of the, elite players like LeBron and Giannis and Chris Paul are like, we owe it to the sport and we owe it to our fans, and we should try to do this if we can safely. Because they're the heralds of the sport, like the sport is them, really. They are responsible for it. And
Right.
I wonder if there's, like, we don't want to just cancel the season right away. We want to see if we can make it work. We want to try. And if we can't, then we won't. But to not even try maybe doesn't sit well with some of the players.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't really want to talk about the money stuff. Who knows even what will end up happening. But I imagine that the NBA won't have to close its doors, So,
Right.
I'm pretty sure everything will be fine, even if a season doesn't occur. And it would be just devastating if this did happen and someone got sick or, God forbid, died. Like, it just wouldn't be worth it. And so I don't know. It's a tough question, and this is not the only union and management dispute like this going on in the country. It's going on everywhere. And the players do have more power in this regard than a regular union. So maybe that's another reason why they want to try to get as much out of management as they can, just as an example for some of the other lesser known smaller unions out there.
Yeah. I can say one positive thing that's come out of this whole Orlando, other than hopefully ultimately basketball, but currently this Orlando plan is the fact that Shams tweeted this out on Tuesday afternoon. The fact that the Disney hotels for the players, have you seen this? That it's based on seating, that the best teams get the best hotels, which is just incredible to me. That's such a great thing to come out of this. That, like, yeah, I guess it makes sense on some small level, but it's also just hilarious to me that, like, you get prioritized better hotel accommodations if you are a higher seed, which I have no idea if that's like actually true There's no way that's actually true, like in the actual NBA if you were having an actual playoff series. But I just think that that's a hilarious little thing to like come out of this, where they're like, well, we got to figure out hotels, and there's only so many hotels in Disney, and Disney tiers their hotels, and someone in the back's like, what if we did it by seating? And it's like, great. The Bucks, Lakers, and Raptors and Clippers are all like, yeah, we're in. We love this idea. We'll take the best hotels. And the Wizards like, oh shit. So
right, now we'll know which
Yacht
hotels
Club
Disney
Wizards.
actually considers good and which it considers trash.
I can tell you, the top seeds go to the Grand Destino, and then the Grand Floridian gets the middle tiers, and then the Yacht Club gets the bottom of the barrels, the guys who aren't even in the playoffs yet. I love it.
I mean, it's funny that like we're talking about tiers, and the lowest one is the Yacht Club.
I know, right? Also, the amenities, there's going to be a player-only lounge with 2K TVs and games, 24-hour VIP concierge.
Dude, but this is the other thing. It's going to be like
sets.
Biodome. Like, all these guys are going to be shut in with each other. Like, you're not allowed to have visitors for a while. This is just such a grand experiment that you could see going wrong in a lot of different ways.
What if instead of an NBA season, what if the NBA just filmed this? What if this just became a reality show and we just watched NBA players living in this like Disney dome and just like their own interactions and everyone kind of like forming cliques and kind of all the drama that comes? It's like Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but real NBA players of Orlando, Florida. Like I would watch the living shit out of that show.
Yeah, it would be funny to see, but everybody, it seems like, are friends. Like, I don't think it would devolve into some like real world or Big Brother
Kyrie
thing.
In there, and all kinds of shit's gonna go haywire.
Yeah, I don't know. Are he and KD even allowed to go?
I would have to think that they would not want to go.
I mean, I guess like you get to be on the bench and cheer, but like if you don't need to be there,
yeah. Who would be the NBA player that if you threw into the Biodome would be a spark that would ignite everything?
Who? I mean, the 8th grader, born ready. Let's see. Who out of the 8 teams?
I mean, well, so the 8 team's not in there. I mean, so I feel like Russell Westbrook could be a feather ruffler, but maybe that's only on the court, and off the court he's like kind of bully with everyone.
Yeah, and he knows so many players around the league already.
Who's just a complete and utter dick.
Right. Yeah.
Would Draymond be in? Question mark. I feel like Draymond like has talked a bunch of shit about everyone, especially during this off season where there's been a lack of content. He's just decided to take it upon himself to like create all content, but it's all been like with older players. Like he's had his beef with Charles Barkley and all of that kind of stuff. Maybe we just throw Charles Barkley into the Biodome.
Right. It's funny because this is coming on the heels of the MJ doc. So it's like if everyone shows up trying to be MJ, like I'm just trying to get you to get better. I just want you to want to get better. But everyone thinks that they're the MJ and no one thinks that they're Scottie Pippen or Steve Kerr.
that I'm here for. Yeah, everyone's just like trying to better everyone around them while they're not yet. This would be scenarios that I could get around.
Who's terribly furious? Yeah, I don't know.
And that's the thing. I feel like tensions have certainly, or not tensions have lowered, but certainly it's just like I feel like in life we've grown a greater appreciation for our fellow person, through these last 3 months. So I feel like probably most of the beef that was happening during the season has been squashed. That's why I think if you were to introduce people into this Biodome that would really kind of spice things up, it would have to be like, retired players. It'd be like Charles Barkley or MJ or I don't know, guys who are sick and tired of this generation being like, we're the best.
Right. This week's crudgy old man to come in and tell you how to really play.
Exactly. This is way delayed because this whole like little Twitter moment way past us, but we weren't recording the podcast at the time. I do have to quickly mention before we get to like kind of what we're actually going to be doing today. I do have to mention that this whole moment that NBA Twitter had about prime Shaq versus prime Draymond and fucking Warriors fans or dumbass fans being like prime Draymond would shut him down. It's like, get the fuck out of here. You guys are idiots. Prime Shaq would eviscerate Draymond. eviscerate Draymond. Draymond wouldn't even be an NBA player. He would have gotten knocked out of the league after one dunk, one time in the post, and Draymond would be out of the league the way that Shaq embarrassed him. So that has been like venting in me forever, because when it first was like running rampant through NBA Twitter, we weren't recording, so I didn't have an avenue to vent, but it is just one of the absolute dumbest, like, take two players in their prime from different eras, how would they compete? And it's like, you can't make an argument for Draymond winning 10 out of 10 of those matchups.
I mean, it seems like an argument that someone who hadn't seen Shaq in his prime would make, and they've just sort of like seen some of the games and seen some
maybe
of the
they watch like
stats.
Cavaliers Shaq or Heat Shaq.
Dude, like, I would take prime Shaq number 1 overall of all players ever in the NBA. He was completely unstoppable. There's just no one, like, Big Ben Wallace guarded him and like shut him down, but those were under like sort of weird conditions, and the Lakers weren't at full strength. And the Kobe Shaq feud, not that there's an asterisk by it, but it's like, I really don't think that anyone comes close to the runaway train, like a mountain who just woke up kind of force of nature that was Shaq. It was terrifying.
Yeah, I think if Shaq, and I know there was parallels drawn to Zion in terms of just like a physical specimen who could just bully you down in the post. And Zion doesn't quite obviously have the post game that Shaq came into the NBA with at this moment. But I feel like if you took prime Shaq and he came into the league right now, like, he single-handedly would destroy the small ball. Like, he would force teams to be like, fuck, we need to go out and get like an actual true center, because otherwise Shaq is just going to, put up 30 and 20 every night against us.
I mean, he certainly would have tried to stay a little bit slimmer, I think. I would love to think that he would be absolutely dominant in this age, but it's all, there, you have to recognize the possibility that it's like, no, he would be like Roy Hibbert. Like, the game would just pass him by because he's not fast enough and he can't play on the court long enough. And,
don't crush my
kind
dreams
of
like
wear
that.
and tear. Well, I'm the one who just said I would take him number 1 overall.
That's true.
Over Jordan.
That's true. I don't have to really
LeBron.
make too much of an argument.
It's just that, and also, do you even need centers anymore?
Right.
But if it's Draymond versus Shaq head to head, and like, we get prime Dre, so he's actually hitting his 3-pointers, it just still feels like, even though Ben Wallace guarded Shaq, he would still take Shaq over Big Ben. Like, that's yeah. So there's also like, Dre can't score like Shaq did.
No, Dre going into the post would just be, it would be like running into a brick wall. It's like, what was that picture? Oh, it was the picture of Cat going up against DeMarcus Cousins like 2 years ago, where Cat's like trying his darndest to move him and Cousins just standing there laughing.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes someone's just bigger and stronger than you are, like more solid. And like, Dre is one of the smartest defenders ever. He is incredible. And if anyone can do it, I guess he could do it. But I don't believe he could. Like, not for 7 games.
God, no. Not even for 7 minutes. All right. Well, since we're talking about Draymond and since we're talking about who would you take, these are just expert segues that only the best of the best in the business can.
This is why they tune in, dude. It's not even for like what we're talking about. It's just to see your dissolves between one scene and another.
Right. Exactly. No one cares about the actual basketball content we're talking about. It's just how well I transition from subject to subject. We're going to take, of the 8 teams that are not in the playoffs, we are going to draft. We're going to do an 8-player draft. And both Natty and I are going to draft a team from the available players not in the playoffs. And the goal is you want to make it as deep in this year's playoffs as possible. So we're not building teams for the future. We're not building teams for potential. We are building the best team right now to go into this Orlando bubble playoff and try to make as much noise and upset as much people as possible. We're going to assume everyone is healthy. So that throws like Blake Griffin back on the table. Everyone magically, the injury slider is off. Everyone's magically on the court again. And we have each picked our coaches. We've taken the two, arguably Is it arguably? No, not really. The two best guys, the two obvious number one picks.
The two guys that we're not letting them be healthy. We're not getting Steph and Clay.
We're not getting Steph or Clay back. So they are our coaches. So Natty is drafting for Coach Steph, and I'm drafting for Coach Clay. And Natty, you know what? Because I'm a generous man, I will let you have the first pick of our Snake 8-round draft. Who are you starting your perfect playoff team from the available players, which is the Hornets, Bulls, Knicks, Pistons, Hawks, Cavs, Timberwolves, and Warriors? Pick number 1. With that, Natty, you take.
I'm going with the big cat.
Yeah.
We're going with Karl Anthony Towns, who will be healthy, will not play much, if any, defense, but he's one of my faves. He's a boyfriend. Actually, he's not a boyfriend. I just really like his game. So yeah, I'm all on the cat train.
Blow to big
well,
cat's
boyfriends
ego.
are like dudes you believe in, like you are with them on their journey. Like Cat came in and was already a great offensive player, like
you have to, there has to be like an evolution, a process for, for your love to really cement itself. If they come in like already beautiful, it's just kind of like, okay, well, that was, what are we doing?
Right.
Now?
Like LeBron can't be anyone's boyfriend, but Giannis is technically one of my boyfriends because I drafted him in our premier draft, I think, in my main league. Yeah. And, the 7th pick or something. Like, he's a boyfriend, even though he's moved on.
Yeah, that's fair.
He got too big.
He quite literally, he got too big for you.
2 sizes. Jesus.
Number 2, I thought this guy, it was up between 2 players in my mind for who was going to go first overall. And I figured you'd go with Cat, and I'm glad you are, because the playoffs, Natty, all that you need to happen in the playoffs is for one guy to just get flame throwing hot, and suddenly your team is unstoppable. So with my first pick, to go as far into the playoffs as possible, Trae Young. Trae Young is leading my team.
Wow, Ice Trae.
Deep into the playoffs this year.
Okay, geez, that is really, he's 7 minutes old and he can't play defense, but that's great because Big Cat can't either. So that's awesome. I love that.
I just need him to just shoot flames from downtown. Klay Thompson's going to teach him how to play defense. We're in. Coach Klay has got this.
That's a great point. If anyone can do it, it's Klay.
Yeah.
Klay and Trae. Oh, shit. I love that. Fuck you. God damn it.
Oh man, that's our team name, Clay and Trae. Clay Trae.
Dude,
the Clay Trae. The Clay Trae.
Sure.
Yeah, we're in.
All of the players you take should rhyme. I hope that happens.
Oh fuck. Okay, let's see if I can do that. I'll work on that.
Start over.
To see. Yes. Well, no. Currently, I'm on fire. It's just whether or not I can keep that going. We are going to take a quick ad break.
You mean you're on ice? Thank you very much.
Oh, nice. Well done. Well done. Oh, and this is a snake draft too, which means I get to get pick number 3. And with pick number 3, I am going to. Oh, I forgot that this is how it's structured. Well, pick number 3, I'm going to go. He's healthy. I'm going to take Blake Griffin. He's going to be able to. First of all, I had to steal him from Natty. He's going to be able to. Obviously, can play 4, play the 5 for me if I want to go small. And the biggest thing that I feel like I often forget about Blake, because of the fact that he's just been chronically injured since heading over to the Pistons, is the fact that like he was developing a pretty smooth 3-point shot. So he can shoot the ball quite well, which was not true early in his career. Early in his career, he was down by the paint and had to do his alley-oops. But now shooting last year, 2018-19 season, shooting 36% from 3. I'll take that in 7 attempts. Yes,
dude,
please.
And distributing. Like, it's the dimes that I love. Like, he and Drum were kind of getting it. Yeah, he's turned into a point forward, and I loved everything that I saw of him when he was healthy, obviously.
Yeah.
But, that's a great – him and Trae together –
yeah, that's just
pretty
the pick and roll
nice.
game is going to be gorgeous there.
That's pretty nice. Up yours.
All right, pick number 4.
Okay, to counter your Blake, I will take Draymond. Also, as a nice little compliment in the defense department to Big Cat, and I'm sure they'll get along just fine.
Definitely. Just for those keeping track at home, Draymond was the 4th power forward on my board. So I am not broken up that he is gone.
The thing about Draymond is you can go fuck yourself. That's the thing about Draymond. It would be nice if like healthy Draymond had his outside shot back. But we're not going to worry about that. We want Dre to be there to shut down your best offensive players. You don't have Shaq. He'll be able to do that. Let's go, Dre.
Yeah. Let's keep referencing everything to the late 90s Bulls.
Exactly.
Draymond is your Dennis Rodman.
Absolutely. Let's
Play
go,
defense,
Worm.
Grab boards, be crazy.
And that he won how many championships? Dre's won how many championships? Yeah.
Bing pot. Nailed it. Coming around on the snake, pick number 5 for you.
Pick number 5. I don't have anyone in the backcourt yet. We will be going with the dentist, Zach LaVine. Yeah, let's get some 25 points. Who cares how you do it? Right on. Let's go. Run.
Yes.
I love his bad attitude with Boylan too. It's great.
He was who I was debating with Blake, but I was worried that Trae Young and Zach LaVine sharing a backcourt together would be diminishing both of them.
You would just need like so many possessions.
Right.
And Trae would just be shooting from half court just to like try to speed up the game.
So yeah, but I love that. Zach LaVine playing with Dre and Big Cat. Again, you could get some really sweet pick and rolls with Big Cat and LaVine going. You wouldn't be able to crash down because LaVine would either hit the boards or you'd have Big Cat wide open for the 3.
And I'm really hoping that like they sort of wouldn't get along. More like 90s Bulls. Like, but I respect you so goddamn much. Like out on the court. We're brothers.
What's Vince Vaughn's line from Anchorman? He's like, "I hate you, Ron Burgundy, but damn it if I don't respect you."
Right? Yeah.
I feel like that would encompass them. All right, so that means I have mine up at pick 6, and I feel like we now go to who the hell knows, because we've kind of taken. I feel like we've taken most of the big name guys, unless I'm like. Or not big, like the clear stars, the clear tops of the draft. And maybe I'm forgetting on some people.
Yeah. I mean, so here's who were all-stars. DAR was an all-star, right? D'Angelo Russell.
Yep.
Kevin Love.
Yep.
D-Rose.
Yep.
Maple Jordan. Drum. But yeah, it's like there's a reason these teams aren't going to Orlando. Also, that should be like a new saying we have. Like, well, they're not going to Orlando anytime a team sucks.
I love it. Anytime a team is not a playoff team, well, they're not going to Orlando.
Yeah, like the next 3 Tigers seasons are going to be like, they're not Orlando, but they're getting there.
They're not Orlando bound quite yet, but eventually they could be. All right. Well, then I am going to go with what about you? Pick 6. Let's do it. Friend of the podcast. I'm gonna go PJ Washington.
Oh, you absolute monster!
Yes.
God damn you!
I've loved too much of what he was doing with the Hornets during the season. You got Trae Young, PJ Washington, Blake Griffin. That's a sexy young team there that's got some leadership and some certainly plenty of outside shooting, which in this day and age, that's the name of the game.
I just knew I should have taken him first. Fuck you, Cat. God damn it. God damn it.
All right, then my next pick 7, I am going to then shore up my shooting guard position, and I'm going to leave the ball-dominant D'Angelo Russell for you, Natty, and I'm going to take Malik Beasley, who I thought was playing very well. We've talked a lot about him back on the show when he got traded to the Timberwolves, playing off ball, and so I think he's going to be a great complement with Trae Young in that backcourt.
We love Malik.
We love him.
Just so many mouths to feed in Denver, and it was really nice to see him just explode out of the gate after he got traded. So I love that. That's great. Those are 2 of my guys. Let's just cancel the pod. I don't want to keep going. All right. I have Big Cat, Draymond, and Zach. I could use like some so-called wings. I believe that's what they're called.
I believe that's the term, quote unquote.
Yeah. Okay, so we first of all will go with Miles Bridges to counteract your PJ Washington.
Sure.
And we love Miles Bridges too. Like that,
We do.
They're
That
a
is
dynamic duo. That's so awesome.
Not a bad pick at all.
God damn. And then we will go with Maple Jordan. God damn it.
Son of a bitch.
Because you know the one thing that Big Cat wants is to get reunited with Wiggins.
You know he loves himself some Andrew Wiggins.
Jesus Christ. Well, you need wings.
Yeah. Quote unquote wings.
Okay.
All right. Zach LaVine, Andrew Wiggins, Miles Bridges, Draymond, Big Cat. That's not a bad starting five.
It's a starting five. That's for sure.
Those are words
there.
I would use to describe it.
I mean, that is Jesus Christ. But like, it does sort of work. It just sort of depends on whether Zach's like willing to distribute more than have to like take the whole team on his shoulders.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. All right. So I have center position. I've got Trae Young, Malik Beasley, PJ Washington, Blake Griffin. I am not going to draft a traditional center. Instead, I'm going to get another front court guy who I think we could interchange, play a little small ball, have Blake and him on the court at the same time. John Collins is going to be my next pick from the Hawks. Fantasy darling for me. He was on the team that I took over that I was doing really well on until the league suddenly came to a halt. But he can obviously play center. I think he has the size to do that, but also has the touch to be able to stretch the court a little bit. So I like his pairing with his team.
Nice. Yeah, it was. God, I just remember talking about the Hawks so much before the season started and how much we love John Collins. And this is just, I mean, we were right about the no defense and a lot of things changed in Atlanta, I suppose. But John Collins was one of the best stories of the season for them.
And then, because he's just sitting there, and I'm going to make him my sixth man, D'Angelo Russell, come off the bench. You get to run the offense when Trae Young needs to take a rest, and we can still utilize you. It's going to be a slight role reduce. You're going to have to accept this new role, D'Angelo, but I think that you can do it. And this is, with you coming off the bench as our sixth man, this is that's going to be the little perk that we have that's going to push us over the edge and help us win those extra games that we need to in order to continue down the playoffs this year.
I like that. Perhaps the role he was born to play, really.
Ooh, yeah, maybe not. Maybe.
I mean, that's the other thing. It's like we didn't get to see Cat and DAR really, and Malik Beasley. God, Minnesota, like it's not looking that terrible. But let's not get excited. That team sucks.
Not get excited.
They're not Orlando. They're just
not
an Orlando
anytime soon. God,
okay, this is the 12th pick.
Yes, sir.
I need an actual distributor, like a traditional point guard. So we'll go with D-Rose.
Nice.
And then, we could use a traditional center, I think. So let's go with Drum. Why not? I love you, Drum.
All right.
Come home.
He was not at all on my board, but sure. I like that.
Isn't that amazing though? Like the board's leader for the season, and like what he can do. It's just that it's not as useful as it used to be.
In this perfect world where all these players are happy with their reduced roles, like him coming off the bench, I feel like that's great. Yeah. He gives respite for Big Cat, and the biggest thing too is that he can just come in and just annihilate the board, right? He can clean up, because I feel like that's often a spot where it makes or breaks a team, similar to like D'Angelo Russell having a guy who can come in for that, from the bench team, for the second string team, and like really lead that offense and create their own scoring while you're having subs on is huge. And I think the same is true if you can have a guy on that second string unit who can get boards, who you will not lose the rebounding battle when you put in your subs, which is huge, because I think that's often a spot where that can happen when you don't have as good a rebounding in your bench.
That was one of the rebounds was one of the other things that was going to be so interesting about this season because
Yeah.
Houston basically just gave up on them. And traditionally, you need to be able to rebound in order to be successful in the playoffs. Um, so if Houston's experiment had really worked, where they're just like, yeah, we don't really care as much about the boards, it would have been fascinating to see that actually play out in the playoffs. And I think that rebounds matter, but like we're in an age of having to reevaluate things that we think we know. So Drum's a bit of a sentimental pick. I do think
Sure.
that he's either a bench player on a good team or a necessary starter for sort of a younger team. Like Houston, like let's say Drum. I mean, if Drum was free, then like obviously they'd scoop him up. But Drummond's going to be so expensive next year because they'll obviously pick up his player option. Uh, would Houston want a player that only rebounded? I don't think so. Like, I don't really even know. He would provide a service to them, but I don't know if that's even the sort of player that they would value. I mean, they could just be like, no, fuck it, we don't care.
Mm-hmm. Can I give you a little breaking news, Natty?
Yeah, please do.
This is from Stefan Bondi at SBondyNYDN on Twitter. In a recent chat group with Nets players, Kyrie Irving lobbied for skipping the bubble, and the Daily News has learned. In that chat, he also proposed that the players can start their own league, according to a source. So Kyrie has now gone full galaxy brain and has decided to skip the NBA's planned playoffs, rightfully so. Every player is allowed to do that, and wants to create his own basketball league. So let's see where this goes, Kyrie. Let's see where galaxy brain Kyrie takes us.
Like, he's not even the head of the union. I don't even know if I don't think he's the Brooklyn Nets union rep. Maybe he is, or players union rep. I will say this. I am sure that in every single sports negotiation, labor negotiation ever, like someone's reminded ownership, like, well, we could all just leave and do our own thing.
Yeah. I don't think that's a threat that they've not heard before.
Yeah. So like, that is, in one way, it seems like, oh, of course. Well, everyone says that all the time during union management disputes. On the other hand, like, again, it's Kyrie. It's like,
right,
my man. Like, who's going to run it? Where's it going to be? What name? Like, will it be called? Will you be able to keep your stats? How much money is good? Like, you can throw it out there, but if you can't answer like some practical questions, which is what he just asked in the last meeting of the NBA, then it's not going to go very far.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe he does have answers to all those things. Like maybe
Kyrie,
he has a plan.
If you have a plan for a whole new league that is entirely player driven and run, I'm here for it. Fuck it. Let's see what happens. I am all for, with baseball, like more or less self-destructing. I am here for like these professional leagues to just take sudden and drastic changes to see what they can do to like reinvigorate engagement.
There is a philosophical argument to be made that a reevaluation of the sports leagues would actually be a really important example of the marches and protests working, because these leagues have been exploitative. They are exploitative. They totally take advantage of their workforce. The owners do nothing except really make things worse. They get to run it like a monopoly. There's no competition, and they get to, blackmail municipalities into giving them money that the players don't get, and the players don't have that kind of leverage. The players that matriculate into those pro sports leagues aren't allowed to make money while they're in college, even though it's prime athlete years. So like, the sports leagues are a microcosm of some of the things that are wrong right now everywhere, not just here. And the disparity between how women get paid and how men get paid.
Totally.
Like, that should absolutely be addressed. The women soccer team just lost the Supreme Court case, I think, but this is a time for change. So if people want to start thinking about like how these leagues should be run rather than just how they have been run, like, tradition is usually not a good enough reason to keep something going. Like, you shouldn't just be like, well, that's the way it always has been, to say no to change. It's just that, it's coming from Kyrie.
But hey,
That's
you're
what
right.
you get, man. You
but,
want to
like,
be a
that's the
troll, that's
thing.
what you get.
You know what? Maybe it takes Kyrie's galaxy brain to like get us in that crazy new pathway of a player run sports league that now suddenly there's no longer things aren't run by old rich white men, and they're instead run by the people who are actually creating the product. I mean, a novel idea here, but yeah, maybe that's what it takes, is Kyrie's crazy ass thought process.
Because the other thing, like, you can also describe Kyrie as someone who doesn't know anyone a good flying fuck. Like, he has a chip.
Yeah.
He's taken one of the most important shots in NBA history.
Right.
Like, he's gotten massive contracts. He's still young. He, if there was never basketball and he never got paid again, he'd be just fine. So he is in the enviable position of not having to give a fuck. He's also not going to be playing in the playoffs. So he can do whatever he wants with all of this. And, like, why not? If you have leverage, you should use it. The only thing holding him back is himself. And if he hadn't made those flat earth comments, and if he didn't have a reputation for being difficult in the locker room, although it's really, I think, just sort of with the younger guys, then we'd probably be taking this much more seriously.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And I think,
like, what if it was Chris Paul saying this? Then we'd be going like, oh, fuck,
people would be
shit.
like, yeah, totally, 100%. You're 100% right. But not to interrupt our more important non-playoff draft.
But that's the other thing. If he did let's say they did it, and like there's no NBA and it's a players league and they just started over.
Do they
the
then
draft
have a massive draft? Oh, that
would be the cool. Because, like, how would it work? Would it be players choosing teams?
It would, so
like,
it would
rather than teams choosing players.
Oh my god, that would be, people would. I mean, you know how like people were kind of all excited for like the LeBron Giannis drafts for the All-Star games, and they haven't done as great. Like, I feel like there should be more smack talking, or there should be.
Oh, they
like,
want it to be Disney for as long as LeBron's going to be there. Like, he's not going to swear or anything. Like,
no, but I want like live feeds of all the players when they're getting drafted, so that every time Russell Westbrook is the last player drafted, he just starts shouting fucks. But anyway,
yeah, and then you could do it like in the hockey draft, like last man drafted.
Right. But yeah, you're right.
Like, here's a car.
Having a complete redrafting of the NBA would just be, I mean, that rivals even my fucking quarantine bubble reality show.
Everyone loves drafts, although we might have to like use a different word if we were going to change, because it wouldn't be I don't know if it would be teams drafting people. It might be the other way around. Like, I want to play for the Knicks. I don't care if they're shit. I'm going to go there and play for the Knicks.
That would be interesting. So you think it wouldn't be a draft? It would just, I mean, that's what puts more power into the players' hands. It wouldn't be a draft. It would be everyone player gets released to free agency, and then it's up to teams and ownership to like recruit and build your team.
Yeah, I mean, it could, and then it's sort of, the money would be more a function of like, okay, well, I want to play for New York.
Right.
I will take less money because I know that I'm not going to get traded. Like, I could.
Right.
I mean, who even knows if trades would even really work anymore? Like, the whole paradigm would change. It would be amazing. It would be incredibly fascinating. But the best thing about it would be that the basketball would still be basketball. So while there might be like some rule changes,
more than basketball.
It would just be, it's like they're not going to change the house. No, right. They're just redecorating some of the rooms, if that makes sense.
Exactly. No, that was a perfect analogy, Natty. All right, well, let me finish up. Let's.
Oh yeah, pick 14.
As we're wont to do on this show and go on random tangents. Let's finish up this draft. I have 2 picks left, and with my 2 picks, I am going to take a backup point guard. We're going to take Jeff Teague.
Oh, wow. All right.
I'm a big Teague fan.
Mr. Professional, absolutely.
I trust his, yes, exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. Trust his leadership and veteran status. And then as my final pick of the draft, I'm going to get a guy who's probably not going to give me too much offense. Maybe he will, but what he's going to give me is just rim protection to the maximum, and that's going to be Mitchell Robinson.
Yes, sir.
Give me
Mitch
some
Rob. Yeah, I had him right after John Collins on my list.
Nice.
He is a super exciting young player, and just another example of like the Knicks sort of draft better than they have a reputation for. But they like fall into players, and then
they somehow just squander it.
Right? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, you're totally right though. Like if you look at the players who they have drafted, all of them, you have like an avenue of there being that potential coming to light, but it's just like, do you trust the Knicks not to get in their own way and somehow like cripple them and hinder them? Which
they
have
drafted Kristaps Porzingis.
I know.
They traded Kristaps Porzingis for draft picks and for the opportunity to like make big free agent moves this summer.
Oh my God.
And last summer, and it's just a gigantic catastrophe. Like it's so funny.
It's just so bad.
It's amazing. God, ancient Taj Gibson, whatever.
Final pick in our 2020 non-playoff team draft. Who do you take?
Okay, these are the players that I have left on my list. I mean, left on my list. Excuse me. Kevin Love. I should probably take him. Otto Porter Jr., who, when healthy, I feel is like an extremely competent complementary player. Tomas Satoransky, like a guard with size who can distribute. Who else is on here? Devontae Graham's available, the finisher, Clint Capella, Alfred Payton. But I think we have to go with K-Love because a player of that caliber, fully healthy, can, obviously help you win a ring.
Hey,
so yeah, we're going with Kevin Love.
He played the best defense that Steph Curry has ever seen on him. So
he just needs to rise to the occasion. And,
now that he's on Team Curry, maybe that will always be the case. Especially since he's side by side with Draymond.
Yeah, you've sneakily drafted a lot of Warriors onto this Team Curry.
Well,
too.
Well, Wiggins. I mean,
exactly.
It's just
peeling back.
It's so hard to draft with these players because it's so limited, and I was really looking for some people and trying not just to take like rookies, just because I'm so in love with some of them. Like another player that's Julius Randle.
He was a guy on my list.
Yeah, Tristan Thompson, Christian Wood for Detroit was doing great. Let's see. Oh, Terry Rozier.
Yeah, Terry and I have a falling out, but yeah, I understand.
But he was looking like playoff scary Terry, but he was looking better. A lot better, yeah.
So I don't know. I like your team too. Ice Tray and Blake just seems so sexy to me.
Nice way to start. Yeah. So before we go, let's recap the draft. I got Trae Young and Jeff Teague at point guard, Malik Beasley and D'Angelo Russell at shooting guard, PJ Washington small forward, Blake and John Collins at the power forward, and then Mitch Robinson at center. And Natty, you've got Zach LaVine, D Rose at point guard, Andrew Wiggins, Miles Bridges small forward, power forward, Draymond and K-Love, and then Big Cat and Drummond in your back court. Both of those squads are pretty good.
I would enjoy watching a 7-game series with those teams.
Yeah. And we'll drop a poll on Twitter, so make sure you go follow us at The Long Two Podcast. We'll drop a poll, and you guys can vote as to which of our teams would make it further in this year's playoffs. That's all we got, so make sure you subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. We are there. We are under the Fake Teams Podcast channel, so look for that. Drop a review. Give us 5 stars because you love us. And we will be back at you next week. Natty, until then, stay safe.
Stay safe and healthy. God bless the marchers. Keep marching, everybody.
Amen.